You think human rights were invented in 1776? They weren't. They were written 2,500 years earlier, on a piece of clay, by a man who conquered half the world, and then bowed to its gods. That document exists. A copy sits in the United Nations building in New York right now. And the city this man built, his capital, his monument, his vision of what an empire could be, was abandoned in a single day. The workers just stopped. The stones are still there, exactly where they were left. Nobody has ever fully explained why. Here's what's strange about Cyrus the Great. He started as the chief of a minor Persian tribe. Within 30 years, he controlled an empire stretching from Egypt to India, the largest the world had ever seen at that point. A third of the entire human population lived under his rule. But that's not the part that doesn't fit. When he conquered Babylon, one of the greatest cities on earth, he didn't burn the temples. He didn't execute the priests. He walked into the temple of the Babylonian god Marduk and bowed his head. He freed the enslaved peoples held in the city. He returned the sacred statues that previous kings had taken as war trophies. He wrote it all down. On a cylinder of baked clay, 22 centimeters long, freedom of worship, no forced labor, respect for local customs. The original is in the British Museum in London. A copy sits in the United Nations headquarters in New York, recognized as a precursor to the Declaration of Human Rights. That's the man who built this city. And that man, the most powerful ruler of his age, chose to build his capital not in a great river valley, not near an ocean, not at a crossroads of trade. He built it in an empty highland valley, nearly 6,000 feet above sea level, surrounded by mountains. And then he never finished it. The city is called Pasargadae, a valley in what is now southern Iran. Palace complexes, a royal garden, a fortress on a hill, and a tomb. What makes it unlike any other ancient capital is who built it. Not one culture, not one people. Craftsmen came from every corner of the empire. Babylonians, Greeks, Egyptians, Lydians, all working side by side on the same construction site. The first multicultural building project in recorded history. A physical expression of everything Cyrus believed, and it was left unfinished. Here's the thing, Pasargadae isn't just a ruin. It's a ruin with questions inside it. 5 of them. And none of them have clean answers. The first question is the most basic one, and the answer is gone. In the valley, away from the palace ruins, stands a simple stone structure. 6 wide limestone steps, each one slightly narrower than the one below. On top, a small chamber with a sloped roof and a single entrance. Inside, roughly 10 feet by 6. That's it, no decoration, no inscription on the outside, just stone. This is supposed to be the tomb of Cyrus the Great. 2 centuries after his death, Alexander the Great came here. He was fresh from burning Persepolis, the later Persian capital, to the ground. That act still divides historians. Revenge for the burning of Athens, cold geopolitical strategy, a drunken mistake after a feast, nobody agrees. But when Alexander reached this tomb, something changed. He stopped. He walked inside. He stood over the golden coffin covered with fabric, weapons placed beside the body, food offerings on a stone table, and an inscription carved into the stone. "Stranger, I am Cyrus the Great. I gave the Persians their empire. I ruled Asia. Do not envy my tomb." Alexander ordered a garrison of soldiers to guard it permanently. Years later, returning from India, he was told the tomb had been looted while he was away. The coffin opened, the body disturbed, the offerings stolen. His reaction was extreme even for him. He had the perpetrators executed. A man who burned Persepolis to the ground made it a matter of personal honor to protect this grave. But here's what nobody talks about. Historians today aren't certain Cyrus is actually buried here. There's another structure miles away, in a different location that some researchers believe is the real tomb. A massive square building of white limestone, 12 meters tall, with a single small window near the top that no staircase leads to. Its original purpose is officially unknown. It's been called a fire temple, a treasury, a ritual chamber. Nobody knows what it was built for. Nobody knows what was inside. So the tomb in the valley might be the tomb, or it might not be. The man who shaped the ancient world may be buried somewhere nobody has properly identified. And the inscription that once identified his grave disappeared within 15 years of the last person who copied it down. Think about that. The second mystery is standing in plain sight, and nobody can explain it. Of everything that once decorated the palace complex at Pasargadae, one carving survived. A single limestone relief, 3 meters tall, standing at the entrance to one of the palace rooms. A male figure, bearded, robed in something that isn't quite Persian, isn't quite Babylonian, isn't quite Greek. It's something between all of them. On his head, a crown that combines 3 distinct royal symbols: the white crown of Upper Egypt, the red crown of Lower Egypt, and the horned mitre worn by Elamite priests. All 3 merged into one headdress, and he has 4 wings, 2 raised upward, 2 folded down. Not bird wings, not eagle wings. Stylized, formal, Egyptian in design. 4-winged beings appear in different cultures: Assyrian guardian spirits, the messenger of the Zoroastrian god, Egyptian divine figures. But this carving belongs to none of those traditions cleanly. It's all of them at once and something else entirely. There was once an inscription above the figure. A British traveler copied it by hand in 1861. It read, "I am Cyrus, the Achaemenid king." 15 years later, the inscription was gone. Worn away, removed, erased, nobody knows. All that remains is one man's handwritten copy in a 19th century notebook. So is this Cyrus himself? A god? A symbol of the empire's many cultures combined into one image? 200 years of archaeology, no answer. The third mystery is in the doorways, and it might be the strangest of all. Most of the decorative stonework from the ceremonial palace is destroyed. What survived are figures carved at the entrance thresholds, walking in procession. Look at the feet. One figure has a fish tail where legs should be. Another has bird claws. A third has the hooves of a bull. Only the fourth figure has ordinary human feet. The official interpretation: priests wearing ritual costumes, each one representing the gods of a different people within the empire. Cyrus, who accepted all religions, displayed all gods on his own palace walls. Maybe. But here's the problem. Nothing like this appears anywhere else in Persian architecture. Not at Persepolis, the magnificent later capital. Not at Susa. Not at any other Achaemenid site across the entire empire. If this was a standard religious display, why is it only here? And if it isn't, what exactly is carved into those doorways? The question hasn't moved in a century. The fourth mystery is the one you can see with your own eyes and still not believe. On the western hill, above the valley, there's a massive stone platform. It was clearly being built as the foundation for another palace, the largest in the complex. The stones are laid in careful, precise rows. The workmanship is meticulous. And then it stops. The top layer is uneven. The building above it was never started. The scaffolding came down. The workers left. When Cyrus died in battle ambushed, according to one account, by a nomadic queen, who had refused his marriage proposal and understood exactly what that refusal would mean. His son inherited the empire and moved the capital elsewhere. Nobody burned Pasargadae. Nobody demolished it. Nobody built over it. They just stopped coming. The platform sat half-finished while the rest of the ancient world rose and fell around it. It's still sitting there now, untouched, unfinished, exactly as the workers left it on the last day anyone tried to complete it, 25 centuries ago. The fifth mystery has a name that tells you everything and nothing. Above the unfinished platform, higher on the hill, stands a stone building unlike anything else in the complex. Massive walls, almost no windows, a single chamber inside with a layout that serves no obvious purpose. Not a palace, there's no luxury. Not a temple, there are no altars, no sacred markings. Not a storehouse, the interior is too awkward, too difficult for moving goods in and out. When Arab armies conquered this region over 1,000 years after Cyrus, they found this building and couldn't explain it. So they did what people do with things they can't explain. They gave it a name from scripture. They called it the Prison of Solomon. The tomb nearby became the tomb of Solomon's mother. The unfinished platform became the throne of Solomon's mother. A biblical king absorbed an entire ancient city because nobody had a better explanation. The most credible modern theory is that this building was a treasury, a fortified vault for something so valuable it needed walls that could survive a siege. If that's true, what was stored there? And when the city was abandoned, where did it go? Silence. Here's what survived all of it: the abandonment, the conquest, the centuries of silence. The gardens. Cyrus designed them in a pattern called Chahar Bag, 4 gardens divided by 2 water channels, meeting at a central pavilion. Water flowed through carved stone channels, feeding each of the 4 sections equally. Trees, flowers, arranged by symmetry and intention. It was a model of paradise. Literally. The Persian word for this enclosed garden paradisa became the Greek paradisos. And from Greek, it became the English word paradise. That garden layout moved with the cultures that inherited it. Into Moorish Spain, into Mughal India, the gardens of the Alhambra, the grounds of the Taj Mahal. Every formal garden you have ever seen, with water channels dividing it into 4 equal parts, every single one traces back to what Cyrus built in this valley. Most people have never heard of Pasargadae, but they've been walking through its echo their entire lives. Today, the valley is nearly empty. Wind moves between 4 groups of ruins. A tomb that may or may not hold the man it claims. A winged figure that matches no tradition. Doorways carved with creatures that have no parallel anywhere in the ancient world. A platform frozen mid-construction. A fortified building whose purpose nobody has determined in 2.5 millennia. And the first formal garden ever recorded, whose design quietly became the template for paradise itself. The man who built this place believed that different people, different gods, different languages could share the same empire and the same walls without any of them being made to feel lesser. He wrote that belief into clay. He built it into stone. And then one day, the stones stopped being laid. The questions are still standing where the walls were never finished. And nobody, not then, not now, has been able to explain why. Which of these 5 mysteries would you want answered first? Tell me in the comments. If this story stayed with you, you know what to do. The next video goes somewhere older than Pasargadae by 3,000 years, and it has no official explanation either.